afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here at Bayan Palace, coming to you live with Ms. Eartharin Cousin. She's the Executive Director of the United Nations World Food Programme. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
I'd like to first ask you, welcome to Kuwait first of all, and
Thank you.
I'd like to ask you, what do you think of Kuwait hosting the pledging conference for Syria?
I think this is a very important step forward with Kuwait hosting this conference, because to date, the majority of contributions to the UN, particularly to WFP, have been received from what are called traditional donors, the Western donors. But Kuwait has become a contributor to WFP even before this conference.
Okay.
And then for Kuwait to host this conference today says to the world, this is not a conflict or a crisis for the Western world, but for the entire global community to respond.
So it shows that it sends a different message.
It sends a very different message, and it sends a message of leadership in this region for a crisis that is in this region.
Ms. Cousin, now the aim is to raise $1.5 billion US dollars, but as I understand it, it's $1.5 billion for the first half of this year.
It's for until June.
Until June.
Until June of this year. The challenge is that the needs are escalating.
Yes.
Even for WFP, when we wrote our proposal for today's conference, it was in December.
Okay.
At that point, we were reaching 1.5 million people inside Syria.
Okay.
And so our proposal is based upon that 1.5 million. Today, we are working to scale up our operation to 2.5 million people inside Syria. And our operation outside Syria, it was based upon the 250,000 people that we were supporting. We're now supporting almost 300,000 people in the neighboring countries.
Okay.
So you have an escalation in the number of people in need and a crisis that does not look like it's going to end in the first part of the year. So even with the success of today's conference, the challenge that we have is how do we continue to meet the food assistance and humanitarian needs of those who are being detrimentally impacted, particularly the children.
I was going to say, as of yesterday, we heard there was just over 12,000 people at the border with Jordan waiting to cross in. So Jordan's having a problem, as is Lebanon, Turkey, and Iraq.
Yes.
Now, what does the World Food Programme do? I mean, how does it, when it comes to distributing food and that sort of thing, how do you do that?
Yes. We, in each of the countries, we have programs that are tailored to meet the needs of the refugees in those countries. For example, in Turkey, where the majority of Syrians who sought refuge are now living in camps, we have the ability to provide them with an electronic benefit card that looks just like a credit card that they can use in grocery stores inside the camps to purchase food. Food's available, but it's inaccessible to them because they can't afford it, because they don't have resources.
True.
So we provide that. On the other hand, in Jordan, where you have a Zaatari camp, where there's no food available, we're providing commodities.
Okay.
And there's a community kitchen where people can cook together. And to those who are outside the camps in Jordan, living in host communities, we're providing a paper voucher to them. And what we began just this week, because of the increased number of Syrians crossing the border into Jordan, is a temporary paper voucher program, so that as soon as an individual crosses the border, even before they're registered, we can provide them with access to food. So we can get a voucher to them that will ensure that they can then buy food for their children. Because many of them, I was just in Jordan over the weekend, many of them have walked for 2 days with their children when they come over the border. So to get a hot meal and to know that you can then purchase food so that your children can continue to eat is very important to these women.
It's important now to realize that most of the refugees are children, women, and the elderly.
Yes, they are.
So we're not just talking about food, we're talking about other things that they need.
Yes, we are.
Housing,
education.
shelter, education.
Yes.
This is something I found very interesting today.
Yes.
That I was told that they're very interested in their children's education.
In the camp that I visited in Turkey, has housed the largest high school in that entire region of Turkey, just serving the needs of those who are Syrian refugees in the camp. In Jordan, they are working to integrate children into the public schools inside the country. And so imagine the financial challenge that is now providing to Jordan as they increase class sizes, increase access to services in hospitals. All of those things are beginning to have a detrimental impact on all of these surrounding countries as they try to meet the needs. Inside Zaatari camp, the population, 58% now are under 18, and 20% are under 4 years of age. And so not only do we need to meet the food needs, but as you note, we need to meet the educational needs, the healthcare needs, and just the quality of life needs of having that many children in one place. So this is a political challenge that has evolved into a major humanitarian crisis.
How is this different from when you're dealing with different things like floods or hurricanes and that? Because I think it's got to be more than one agency working together as well as governments.
Yes, even in those kinds of emergencies, it requires governments working together with all of the agencies. The difference here is those are what you call quick onset emergencies. A flood happens, people are impacted, you know what you need to do, you bring in the services, you address it. This is what we call a slow, protracted emergency, where it is evolving and the needs are changing and increasing over a period of time.
So it's more urgent now.
It is much more urgent because what happens is it makes planning to meet the needs very, very difficult. Many of the people who came to Jordan, for example, 6 months ago, had assets when they arrived, but they didn't plan to stay as long as they're staying. And so they weren't counted in our population in need. Now they've depleted their asset. I met women who had sold all their jewelry, including their wedding rings. And so now they're coming to us. They're being forced to come to the humanitarian community to receive help.
What can people do? Now, people listening in are probably wondering, well, the government's doing this and the international organizations are helping out. What can the average family do?
The average family can contribute to WFP, to the Red Crescent organization. There are any number of organizations that would welcome. I know we would. We're 100% voluntarily funded. So when we receive donations, wherever they come from, whether it's governments like we're here today, private sector businesses, which we get significant assistance from, or individual donors. We have an individual donor in Turkey, in Jordan, who's helping us provide bread. We're providing about 25 metric tons per day of bread inside Zaatari camp every single day.
People need it.
Because people need bread. And so we have a donor who's helping us provide that bread every day.
That's amazing what a person can do.
It's amazing what one person can do.
If someone asked you and said, Ms. Cousin, what can we do to alleviate the suffering, and is this situation being tackled based on certain race or creed, or do you give everyone who needs it?
Everyone who needs it. When we're inside the country, we're meeting the needs of those, whether they're in regime-controlled areas, opposition, or contested areas. If they're in the camps, regardless of who they are, if they are in need, we are providing assistance. If they're living with host families, regardless of where they're living with those host families, we target them, we assist them and meet their needs.
This is humanitarian, 100%.
Humanitarian assistance, that's what it is.
Thank you so much for your time, Ms. Cousin. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad we're doing something here, however small, but we do appreciate it.
This is a lot. I am proud to say I participated in this conference in Kuwait, and this is my first visit to Kuwait, but this is a country that's demonstrating true global leadership.
Thank you so much. We are honored.
Thank you.
We are honored, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time.